There's going to be pushes by the Metaverse for visual culture and design. I think a good example is what I've seen in fashion is how metaverse aesthetics are pushing on, hyper bright colors and saturated colors to real life as well.
Can you kind of talk about how you think this stuff, the surrealism, this escapism, this new technology, this wave is going to affect branding, and how brands should be thinking about how they approach this and how they experiment in a space that is quite undefined and has infinite potential, but also no clear path?
Yeah, what will happen is Metaverse will accelerate the rise of surrealistic, fantasy-shaped ideas across brand design as well. So shape shifting and three dimensionality and dynamic forms and very unique, even abstract compositions with mesmerizing color changes will be every day in many areas of visual creation and design. And I also believe that maybe even brand strategies will become even more fluid and resilient as a lot of our environments go there as well. But yeah, I believe that design in general will become very limitless, giving more people the opportunity to step into a role of a designer and craft spaces and objects and their identities and appearances to express themselves in many different times and many different ways simultaneously often. So that's an interesting thing that will happen, like the openness to more people. I think the AI tools that are connected to all things Metaverse will change like how we do design and will be adopted in brand design and help us to push our imagination and even design capabilities further. I think with the AI work, when I'm looking at us as designers, the curator side of design will strengthen. We will need to be better curators and have a lot of knowledge and a clear vision what needs to happen and what we want to do. But I think the AI tools will help us to focus on the kind of big groundbreaking ideas instead of getting lost in the weeds, even though that's sometimes important, just to getting lost because you don't know what you'll find. And there's going to be pushes by the Metaverse for visual culture and design. I think a good example is what I've seen in fashion is how Metaverse aesthetics are pushing on, hyper bright colors and saturated colors to real life as well. And together with like new nanotechnologies that we're seeing in color creation, will push these limits in real life as well. Like we're gonna be seeing colors in print and in clothing that's different what we saw a few years back, whether it's these hyper brights or very blacks, and that's gonna be exciting and open up new opportunities.
Yeah, you were talking about the idea that brand manuals or brand design, brand strategy is going to become more fluid. Now, I know that some of the people who own brands and try and kind of use things like a brand manual to control them and the scope and where they go. Like, how would you shift someone's thinking that, now this is a more experimental place, a more optimistic place where you can get things kind of wrong, which I think to a lot of brand managers, especially for kind of larger corporates, would be, completely terrified at the idea of almost letting go of that control and ceding it to a larger group of people who can create anything they want. How would you go about convincing someone to think about that slightly differently?
Yeah, I think it comes down to like really having strong values for that brand and kind of those core basics to be in place, which will allow you to be more open and even open up the brand for the people who actually create the brand, because that's going to be the customers. Like the brand is something that forms in their minds and in their heads. Like they should be also the ones who are creating the brands, and we see a lot of this in places like metaverse platforms where people are invited in to be part of the experience or build the experience. So but yeah, I think it comes down to that, making sure that the core positioning and values are in a great place, and that allows more freedom to explore and experiment.
I think it's really interesting. Artifact and people like Jeff Staple were making these cool 3D objects, and a lot of them ended up being sneakers that were very similar to Nike Air Force Ones. And instead of, I think, fighting back and pushing back, Nike was just like, okay, we'll just invest in this company and take a controlling stake in it, because where you're pushing our brand, even though we didn't ask you to, is a very interesting, exciting, and refreshing place for us to be. So they didn't have to, as a company, pay for the setup of that and the energy and the collection of talent. The people just did it themselves, and then they could step in and go, well, we can actually work together on something.
If we look at, let's say, web design, like in the early days, and everything was possible. You could just like do anything, and now we have like UI UX principles that are kind of leading a lot of the expression of a brand or experience to certain places, and we've maybe lost a bit of that exciting exploration mentality.